My grandson was so sick that even the doctors at St. Mary's just shook their heads and whispered to each other in the hallway, pretending I couldn't hear. I could hear everything: the soft beeping of the monitor, the tiny wheeze hiding behind his breath, and the cracking sound inside my own chest every time I looked at him lying there, cheeks pale, lips dry, fingers curled like he was holding on to life too tight. People think pain has a loud sound. No, baby. Real pain is quiet. It sits in the corners like a shadow that don't move. And that's exactly how this whole damn story started. I leaned in close, brushing the sweaty curls off his forehead. "Grandma's here," I whispered. "Grandma ain't going nowhere." But deep in my bones, I felt something wasn't right. Something was wrong with my grandson, and something was wrong in that house long before he ever got sick. I didn't know it back then, but looking back now, baby, all the signs were there: the sickness, the tension, the lies, the money, the case she filed. But let me not jump ahead. Let me tell it to you, slow, the way stories deserve to be told. Welcome to Grandma Stories at Grandma Megan. Where y'all watching from? Now listen, 3 months before that girl ever got pregnant, I was the one taking water to her bed. She wasn't sick, she wasn't tired, she wasn't even working, but she liked the feeling of someone fussing over her. "Mom, can you bring me a glass of water? Mom, can you take my plate? Mom, can you help me with my hair? Mom, can you just sit with me?" And, like a fool, I did everything she asked because she acted so sweet back then. She'd hold my hand and say, "You're like a second mom to me. second mom," until the bank statement showed up. Then, suddenly, baby, I became the enemy. But we'll get there. Back to the hospital room. My son stood by the window staring out like he was trying to find answers in the parking lot lights. That boy. He's a good man, hardworking, quiet, too quiet sometimes. "Mom," he whispered, "they don't know what's wrong with him." His voice cracked at the end, and let me tell you something. When a grown man's voice cracks, it breaks a mother's heart in two. I walked over, rested my hand on his back. "Baby, we gonna figure this out," I said softly. "Grandma's here. You're not alone." But he didn't look at me. He kept staring out that window like something outside was calling him, or haunting him. His wife, my daughter-in-law, should have been there with us. But she wasn't. She said she was too stressed. Said hospitals gave her anxiety. Said she needed space. But you know what she wasn't too stressed for? Posting pictures on Instagram, smiling with her coffee, having dinner with her friends. Yeah, I saw it all. I didn't tell my son. Not yet. He had enough pain on his plate, but I held it inside, letting the truth sit like fire under my ribs. The first night in the hospital, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of my grandson coughing, a weak, breathless cough that didn't sound right. I ran to his bedside and grabbed his little hand. "Baby, breathe, just breathe for Grandma." The nurse rushed in, adjusting tubes and checking vitals. "His oxygen's dropping," she muttered. My heart dropped with it. My son stood there frozen, tears filling his eyes. But you know who didn't call, didn't text, didn't check in? His wife. Not once. Now let me take you back. Not far, just a little. 3 months before her pregnancy. She used to say things like, "Mom, I feel dizzy. Mom, can you make me some tea? Mom, can you rub my back?" And I did everything but one night. One night something changed. I walked into their room with a glass of water, and her phone lit up on the nightstand. A message, a name I didn't recognize, and a little heart emoji next to it. She flipped that phone over so fast, you'd think it was burning her hand. I didn't say anything then, but oh baby, I remembered. Because in stories like this, the small things become big later. Now back to the present. The doctor came in the next morning. He talked slow, too slow, like he was choosing each word carefully. "We found something abnormal in the blood work," he said. My son gripped the railing of the bed. "What does that mean?" he asked. "We're not sure yet," the doctor replied. "We need more tests." Then he left. Just like that, no answers, no direction, nothing. My son sank into the chair beside the bed, head in his hands, and at that moment, something inside me said, "This sickness, it ain't just sickness." There was something deeper, something hidden, something nobody wanted to say out loud. Not yet. Later that day, my daughter-in-law finally showed up. Makeup done, nails perfect, clothes too fancy for a hospital. She walked in like she was stepping into a salon, not a room where her child was fighting to breathe. "Oh my God," she said flatly. "Is he still sick? Still sick?" My son looked at her like she was a stranger. Her eyes didn't go to her son. They went straight to my son. And then to me. Cold, sharp, suspicious. Then she said something I'll never forget. Did you give him anything, Mom? Mom? She used to call me Mom with love. Now she said it like poison. I stared at her, and she stared back, like she wanted a fight. But my son stepped in. Not now, he whispered. Please. I didn't say anything, but inside, baby, inside I felt the storm coming. And it wasn't small, it was the kind that tears roofs off houses. Because when she said those words, I knew she'd been waiting to blame me. I knew the bank statement had already poisoned her mind. I knew the case she would file later already existed in her heart. And I knew this wasn't about sickness, this was about something darker. Part 1 recap. Grandson is very sick. Hospital has no answers. Daughter-in-law is acting cold. And distant flashback hints her behavior changed months before pregnancy, she suspects. Grandma of giving him something. Son is overwhelmed and breaking tension is rising. A hidden truth is approaching. Baby, you ever felt a truth sitting in the room before? Anybody says it out loud? That's how it was right then, right there, in that cold hospital room with the blinds half open, and my grandson sleeping like he was holding on to life with 2 tiny fingers. Something darker was moving under the surface, slow, silent, like a shadow creeping under the door, and it was about to swallow all of us. My daughter-in-law stood beside the bed, arms folded, eyes scanning every little thing I touched, every breath I took, like she was collecting evidence rather than checking on her child. The nurse came in, asked her gently, "Ma'am, would you like to hold him?" And she said without even looking, "I'm fine." Fine. A mother saying I'm fine while her child lies there hooked up to tubes. That wasn't fine, baby. That was something else, something cold in the bones. My son didn't say a word. He kept looking down at his shoes, like the floor suddenly had answers he couldn't find anywhere else. Silence cracked when the doctor walked in with another chart. "We need permission for additional testing," he said. My son nodded. But my daughter-in-law didn't. "What testing? Why testing? Why didn't you test before?" she snapped. And then she turned her head slowly, stiffly toward me. "Did you tell them something was wrong with him? Did you exaggerate something, babe?" I felt that. Not the accusation itself, but the intention behind it. This wasn't worry. This wasn't fear. This wasn't a mother losing control. This was a woman building a case, brick by brick. And I swear to you, in that moment, the hospital room felt more like a courtroom. My son finally lifted his head and said, "Stop it." She turned to him, eyes wide. "Stop what? You're treating my mom like she did something wrong." Because maybe she did. Baby, I felt the air leave my chest. Not because of her words, but because of my son's silence after them. He didn't defend me. Not really, not the way he used to. Something in him was cracking. Something had been cracking for months, and I didn't know it back then, but the bank statement had already sunk its claws deep inside our family. The doctor interrupted the tension with paperwork, and my son followed him out, leaving me with her. She didn't wait even 1 second before leaning closer. Her voice was low, sharp enough to cut glass. "You think I don't see it? You think I don't know what you're doing?" I blinked. "Baby, what you talking about? You're trying to turn him against me." I shook my head, calm as warm water. "I ain't never turned my son against anybody. I raised him to think for himself." But she smirked. "That's the problem. He thinks too much. He questions too much." Ever since he saw that bank statement, there it was, the door between past and present swinging open. "The bank statement?" I asked quietly. She straightened up, crossing her arms like she was guarding her secrets with her whole body. "You know exactly what I mean." "No, baby, I didn't know. Not yet, but I was about to." When my son came back, his eyes were red. "Mom," he whispered, "can we talk?" She stood right behind him, arms wrapped around her chest, face tight. I followed him out into the hallway. He leaned against the wall and took a breath that sounded like it hurt. "Mom, did you transfer money out of our account?" My heart dropped like a stone in water. "What money?" He swallowed. "There were transfers, thousands, missing." My knees went weak. "Baby, I ain't touched a single dollar of y'all's money." He dragged a hand through his hair. "I want to believe you. I do. But what?" I whispered. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. The silence said everything. She had gotten into his head. That girl had whispered enough poison to turn my son against his own mother, drop by drop, until he couldn't tell truth from lies. Before I could speak again, She walked out of the hospital room and wrapped her arm around his waist like she was claiming territory. Let's go home, she said softly, falsely, sweet like syrup poured over something rotten. I watched her, watched the way she leaned into him, watched the way he didn't move away, watched everything. And baby, there's a pain deeper than betrayal. It's watching the person you gave life to walk away, believing a lie someone else put in their mouth. That night, I stayed at the hospital alone. My grandson woke up once, looked at me with half-open eyes, and whispered, "Grandma, water." I held the straw to his lips and brushed his cheek with my hand. "You just rest, baby. Grandma's right here." He smiled, just a tiny bit, and closed his eyes again. And that tiny smile, it broke me. Because a child always knows who loves them. Always. Before adults complicate the world. But adults did complicate it. Baby adults made it ugly. And the ugliness didn't stop there. The next morning, before the sun even rose, I got a call. My son's voice was shaking. "Mom, can you come home? We need to talk." I stepped out of the hospital room and said gently, "I can't leave him alone." His voice hardened. "She'll stay with him." My stomach twisted. I should have known what was coming when he said, "We need to talk." Nothing good ever comes after those 4 words. But I didn't expect what waited at home. Because baby, when I walked into that house, the same house where I had cooked for them, cleaned for them, helped her through every little sniffle and mood, there was a paper on the table, a legal paper, filed under her name, against me, and the first words I saw were, "Negligence and intentional harm toward a minor." Baby, she accused me of poisoning my own grandson. Part 2. Recap. Tension rises. In hospital, daughter-in-law begins building accusations. Son begins doubting his mother. Bank statement becomes the core poison. Daughter-in-law acts cold, distant, strategic. Son pulls away emotionally. Grandma stays with sick grandson. The next morning, daughter-in-law files a legal case against grandma. Baby, there are moments in life where your knees don't buckle because you're weak. They buckle because the truth hits you so hard your bones forget how to hold you up. Standing in that doorway, looking at that paper on the table, my hands started shaking before my mind even caught up. Negligence and intentional harm toward a minor. Those words looked like they were on fire, like they were burning straight through the page, into the floor, into my chest. And my son, my own flesh and blood, was standing behind that paper, not defending me, not shielding me, not saying, "Mom, this ain't right." He was just standing there, silent, eyes red, like he was the victim. But my voice came out small, smaller than I had ever heard myself sound. "Baby, what is this?" He swallowed hard, ran a hand down his face, and said the one sentence that stabbed deeper than the accusation itself. "Mom, we had no choice, no choice, no choice. Ain't that something?" But my daughter Na walked in from the kitchen, slow and confident, holding a mug like she was sipping victory. "Actually," she said, "we had every choice, but you forced our hand." I stared at her. "Explain," I whispered. She stepped closer, her perfume sharp, her smile sharpened even more. "You gave him water in the hospital without asking." She shrugged. "His sodium levels spiked after that." I blinked. "Baby, that wasn't from water. He was dehydrated." But she touched her chin, pretending to think. "Maybe, maybe not." Her eyes glinted. "Doctors said the changes happened after your visit." My son didn't look up. He didn't look at me, not even once. "Sit down, Mom," he said. I sat because my legs refused anything else. He sat across from me, like we were strangers in a meeting room. She stood behind him, like a puppeteer holding strings. "There are concerns," he began. "Concerns." My voice cracked. "You raised that baby in my arms. I've fed him, bathed him, watched him when y'all were out late." She cut me off sharply. "Yes, and maybe you overstepped without realizing." My heart dropped. "Overstepped," I echoed. She crossed her arms. "You've been inserting yourself too much, making decisions that aren't yours, touching things that aren't yours, interfering with our household." "Household?" I whispered. "Baby, I've been trying to help." But she shook her head. "No, you've been trying to control." Then my son reached into a drawer and pulled out a stack of papers, bank statements, the ones I didn't know existed, the ones that changed everything. "Mom," he said, voice tight. "There were withdrawals, big ones, over months." I stared. "What withdrawals?" She let out a dramatic sigh. "Stop pretending." "I'm not pretending." My son slid a sheet toward me. "Look." My eyes scanned the page. 3,000, 5,000, 800, 950. Repeating. over and over. Over $22,000 gone, and baby, my world spun for a second. Because I knew, I never touched their money. I didn't do this, I whispered. And he looked at me with this tired pain that told me he wanted to believe me, but he already didn't. He rubbed his forehead. Mom, your name was on the joint account. You had access. Your login was used. My login, I whispered. I never logged in. I don't even know the password. Then something clicked. I remembered. One night months ago, my daughter-in-law sitting beside me at the kitchen table, smiling, sweet and small. Mom, can I use your phone for a minute? Mine's updating. I had handed it to her without thinking. God help me. I handed her the phone like a fool. She wasn't checking messages. She wasn't updating anything. She was accessing their bank, and she was doing it under my name. That's when I realized it. She wasn't careless. She wasn't panicked. She planned all this. Piece by piece, lie by lie, like weaving a net I didn't know I was falling into. I looked at her. You did this. Calm, quiet, certain, she smirked. If I did, prove it. My son stiffened. Stop, he whispered. Both of you. But she wasn't done. She stepped closer. Too close. You already look guilty. You're the only one who had access. Why don't you just admit it? Make this easier on everyone. My voice broke. I didn't do anything. Then why? She said, leaning forward. Did the bank confirm the withdrawals came from your device? Baby, I felt a crack inside me. A real one. The kind that never fully heals. My son exhaled shakily. Mom, we filed a report with CPS. My heart stopped. CPS. Child Protective Services. Against me. A grandmother who babysat more nights than I slept. A grandmother who wiped tears, cleaned messes, held fevers, fed snacks, sang lullabies, and prayed every night for that baby's safe breath. My voice came out like a ghost. You did what we had to, she said calmly. Your involvement might be dangerous. Dangerous, I whispered. Me. My son's eyes filled with tears. This isn't easy. I leaned forward slowly. Baby, look at me. He didn't. Look at me. He finally raised his eyes. The boy I raised was in there somewhere, buried under fear, manipulation, confusion. Do you think I would ever hurt your child? His lips trembled. No, but I don't know what's real anymore. That was it, the truth, plain and simple. He trusted her version of me more than the woman who gave birth to him. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice came back solid. I'm going to the hospital, I said. I'm staying with my grandson. She blocked the doorway. No, you're not. My son didn't stop her. You stay away until the investigation is complete, she said coldly. That's what the report says. A piece of paper. A lie. A manipulation. Had more power than a lifetime of love. I walked out the door numb, heavy, cold. The air outside didn't help. The sky didn't help. Nothing helped. My phone buzzed. A number I didn't know. Hello, I whispered. A calm woman's voice answered. Ma'am, this is CPS. We received a report about an incident involving your grandson. We need to schedule an interview. Baby, my whole world stopped. They were coming for me. I didn't even answer at first. I just sat there, frozen, like every bone in my body suddenly turned to cold stone. Ma'am, the woman on the phone said again, gentle but firm. Are you still there? Yes, I whispered, my throat burning. I'm here. We need to ask you a few questions about an incident that happened 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago was when Ethan, my grandson, had that fever, that shaking, that awful night where my hands wouldn't stop trembling because he looked so pale, so weak. 2 nights ago was when Megan stood in the doorway with that same coldness she's had since the pregnancy. 2 nights ago was when my son, my own boy, looked at me like I was a stranger. My God, what did they tell CPS? Ma'am, the CPS agent continued, are you available tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.? I felt my heart pound against my chest. Yes, I'll be here. Thank you. Please do not discuss this call with anyone involved in the case until after the interview. Click. The line went dead, and baby, I swear I heard the walls breathe around me. That's how quiet the house became. I sat there for a long moment. Then I stood up, slow, older than I ever felt, and walked to the kitchen sink. I splashed water on my face. My reflection in the window looked back at me with eyes I barely recognized. Tired of fighting your own blood. That's when I said out loud, I didn't do anything wrong. But baby, in that moment, I wasn't sure anyone believed me, not even me. It was almost midnight when a soft knock tapped on my door. Not loud, not demanding, just broken. Mom, it was him, my son, his voice. Oh, baby. That boy sounded like he'd aged 10 years in a single day. I opened the door slow, and the first thing I saw was his face. Red eyes, messy hair. He looked like he hadn't slept. Are you okay? He asked. I wanted to laugh. Me. Okay, CPS was coming. My grandson was sick. I had been accused, and the only person standing between truth and destruction was the same boy who once brought me dandelions from the yard and said they were flowers for the prettiest mama. But I didn't laugh. I just stepped aside and let him in. He sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, hands rubbing his face over and over. Mom, he said quietly, they're really coming tomorrow. Yes. A long breath left his chest. Megan said we needed to take precautions. Precautions, what a cold word. What a careful, rehearsed little piece of poison. Did you call them? I asked. His knee stopped shaking. Mom, things have gotten complicated. Complicated. Another cold word. Another rehearsed line. Your son was sick, baby, I said softly. My grandson, my sweet, sweet boy, and I helped him through the night. You know that. He swallowed hard. I saw guilt flash in his eyes. Just for a second. And baby, that was the first flicker of the turn. He wasn't all the way gone. Not yet. After he left, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my little house, touching the pictures on the wall, the memories, the echoes of a life I thought was steady. I kept seeing Ethan's little face in my mind, sweaty, red, scared. I kept hearing Megan's voice. I don't think she can handle him anymore. Handle, like I was some old rusty tool she was ready to throw out. And then, around 3 a.m., I found it, a mistake, a slipdash up. One Megan didn't expect me to see. When my son left earlier, he forgot his jacket. He always forgets something. Since he was 5 years old, that boy never left a room without leaving a piece of himself behind. I picked it up to hang it on the chair, and something fell from the inside pocket. A folded paper, a printed form. I bent down, picked it up, unfolded it. Baby, my heart dropped clean out of my body. It wasn't just a CPS note. No, it was a text transcript, full conversation between Megan and someone named Caseworker S. Screenshots printed, dates, times, messages. And right there, in bold black letters, Megan, if she admits she gave him the wrong medicine, it'll be easier to remove her from the situation. Remove her from the situation. Remove me. The grandmother who raised that boy, fed that boy, loved that boy like he was a piece of my own soul. Another message, Caseworker S. We need proof. She must verbally confirm negligence. And then, Megan, I'll push her. She always cracks when she's emotional. Baby, my knees went weak. I had to sit down my own door. The woman I held when she cried during her ultrasound appointments. The woman I fed when morning sickness kept her on the floor. The woman I gave my bed to when she was 3 months pregnant. She plotted, she planned, she rehearsed. She was trying to trap me. Get my grandson away from me. To get me out of their lives like I was trash left on the curb. I pressed the paper to my chest and rocked back and forth like the whole world was tilting. Because baby, it was. Morning came heavy. Gray skies, cold air, the kind that stings your cheeks and reminds you you're alive, even if you don't want to be. At 9:52 a.m., there was a knock. CPS. A woman in her 40s, polite, firm, not unkind, but not someone to play with. She sat at my table, opened her folder, clicked her pen. And then she said, before we start, Mrs. Hall, I want to ask you something off the record. I blinked, confused. Anything, I whispered. She studied me for a long second. Do you know there's been more than one report? I froze. More than one. She nodded slowly. Anonymous tips. 3 of them. 3. Baby. Megan had been planting seeds longer than I realized. And then, the CPS worker leaned in and lowered her voice, and every one of them sounds the same. Too similar. I frowned. What do you mean? She tapped the folder with her fingernail. This sounds like someone is trying very hard to paint a picture of you that doesn't match your record. My chest tightened. My record. She nodded again. You've been nothing but a stable, consistent presence in your grandson's medical history. Never a red flag. Not one. I swallowed. Ma'am, I whispered, I think someone is setting me up. She didn't nod, didn't comment, but the tiny softening in her eyes told me she'd already suspected it. Let's begin, she said. And baby, That's where things started to unravel, piece by piece, thread by thread. Because the truth always finds a crack to slip through, even when family tries to bury it. When a grown man cries like a little boy, something inside a mother just splits open. My son, my only boy, he didn't just break down, he collapsed right in front of me. He slid down the kitchen cabinet, hands shaking, chest heaving like he couldn't get enough air. Mom, I swear I didn't know it was this bad, he kept saying, over and over, like he was trying to convince himself more than me. And baby, I just stood there, frozen, because for the first time in months, I wasn't looking at a husband's puppet or a wife's shadow. I was looking at my child again. But hurt makes you careful. I didn't rush to him. I didn't hold him. Not like before. I just whispered, "Tell me the truth, son." He covered his face. And that's when I saw it, the bruise on his wrist. Sweet Lord, my own son was bruised, like someone had grabbed him hard enough to leave fingerprints. Who did that? My voice didn't even sound like mine. He looked away. Son, who touched you? He swallowed. And baby, his silence said everything. But before he could speak, the front door slammed. Heavy. Footsteps, sharp, angry. I knew that walk. Her walk. My daughter, Maul, stepped in, with eyes already full of fire, like she'd rehearsed the whole fight while driving home. What the hell is going on here? She snapped, looking at him on the floor like he was an inconvenience. Then she spotted the bruise, and she froze. Just for a second, but I caught the fear. Why is CPS calling me again? She hissed. What did you do this time, baby? That's when my blood turned cold. Again. CPS called her before. She never told me. He never told me. There had been reports before, more than once, and they hid every single one. I stepped between them. You need to leave, I told her, calm but firm. I'm talking to my son. She laughed, that mocking little laugh she always used when she wanted control. No, we talk as a family. I said leave. She opened her mouth, then her phone buzzed. She flipped it over, and baby, the color drained straight out of her face. My son whispered, terrified, "Is that CPS again?" She didn't answer. She just stared at the screen like the words were burning her. I leaned in, and God, forgive me, I read it. CPS. We need to follow up regarding previous concerns and new information received. Please respond immediately. Previous concerns, meaning, this wasn't new, this wasn't sudden, this wasn't one misunderstanding. This was a pattern they hid from me. She snatched the phone back, hands trembling. Don't you look at my messages. I stepped closer, my voice low, steady, deadly, calm. Sweetheart, you can lie to your husband, you can lie to me, but you can't lie to CPS. Her jaw tightened. And baby, that was it. The first moment, she realized the walls around her were cracking. She turned to my son. You better fix this, she snapped. You better get your mother under control before everything gets screwed up. And he, my poor boy, flinched like her words slapped him across the face. I had to hold on to the counter to keep from stepping toward her. Then, the moment that changed everything, she grabbed her purse. But a paper slipped out, a printed email, highlighted, bolded, stuck inside a folder. She tried to push back, but I saw the title. Incident Report, Minor Endangerment Review. Baby, I didn't even touch it. I just whispered, why do you have that? If you said nothing ever happened. She froze again. And my son, my sweet boy, just started crying harder. Not weak crying, not scared crying, but the crying of a man who finally realized he married someone who could destroy him, and expected his mother to stay quiet while she did. I knelt next to him and put my hand on his shoulder. Babe, tell me the truth now. This is between you and your mama. Nobody else, he whispered, barely a sound. Mom, I didn't know she filed reports against you. The room went silent. My heart stopped. What did you just say? He looked at me, eyes swollen. She filed complaints saying, you were unsafe with the baby, that you argued with her, that you made her feel threatened. I felt like the floor tilted under me. What? He looked broken, guilty, lost. I didn't believe it at first, he whispered. But she said if I didn't back her up, CPS would think I was hiding something. Babe, my hands started shaking. She had used CPS to isolate me, to frame me, to control him, to cut me off from my grandson. And my son was trapped in the middle. I stood up slowly. She stepped back, and for the first time, her confidence cracked. You lied, I said quietly. You weaponized CPS. You tried to destroy me. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Because the truth, she knew she messed up. Big. My son whispered, Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know until last week. I swear I didn't. I put a hand on his cheek. Baby, listen to me. Your mama knows your heart. And then before any of us could take a breath, someone knocked on the door. Slow, firm, official. My daughter-in-law went pale. My son squeezed his eyes shut. And I just exhaled. Because I already knew CPS had arrived. Like the whole world held its breath. My daughter-in-law stood frozen by the hallway, hands shaking so bad her keys kept clinking together. My son wiped his face with trembling fingers, like a child who knew he was about to lose everything he tried to protect. And me, I just straightened my back. A mother's strength don't come from muscles. It comes from pain, from survival, from all the storms she already walked through alone. I opened the door. Two CPS workers stood there. One older woman with kind eyes, and a young man holding a tablet. Ma'am, the older one said gently, we need to follow up with all three of you regarding the ongoing concerns. Ongoing, baby, that word cut deeper than any knife. My daughter-in-law tried to step forward. This is a misunderstanding. The younger worker raised a hand. Ma'am, we'll speak to you individually. She froze. And for the first time since she entered our family, she wasn't in control. The older worker pulled out a file, not a little file, a thick one. This case goes back several months, she said carefully. My heart stopped. Several months. My son looked at the floor. That boy knew, not everything, but enough to break him. They spoke to her first. Behind the closed door, we heard her voice rise, crack, shattered. Excuses, half-truths, blame tossed like a stone in every direction but her own. Then silence, then footsteps, then sir, we need to speak with you now. My son walked into that room like a man heading into surgery, knowing something had to be cut open, just praying it wouldn't take the whole heart. I waited in the kitchen, hands clasped so tight they went numb. When he finally came out, he didn't look at her, not once. He sat across from me, eyes swollen, breath unsteady. Mom, he whispered, I told them everything, everything. Every bruise he hid, every threat she made, every moment he felt trapped, every lie she told using CPS as a weapon. He finally broke the cycle. My daughter-in-law stood in the doorway, pale as chalk. You did this. She screamed at him. He didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't defend himself for her comfort. I did what I should have done months ago, he whispered. The CPS workers stepped between them. Ma'am, please lower your voice. She stormed out the back door, slamming it so hard the windows rattled. That was the last time I saw her angry. The workers sat with me next. The older woman's voice softened. Ma'am, we want to apologize. I blinked. For what? She slid the thick folder toward me. For all the reports filed against you that we now believe were false. Baby, I didn't cry. Not then, but something inside me loosened, like a knot finally untied after months of tightening around my throat. They explained everything. How multiple reports were filed using my name, how details didn't match, how patterns didn't add up, how the behavior pointed to manipulation. And how today, because of the documents I saw, and the contradictions she made during her interview, the truth finally surfaced. Then, the older woman said the one thing my tired soul needed more than breath. You are cleared. Completely. Officially. Permanently. Baby. Those words tasted like freedom. Then she put a hand on mine. And your grandson is safe. We're ensuring that. Safe. My son started crying again, but not the broken kind. Not the scared kind. This time, it was relief. Pure, shaking, overwhelming relief. I reached out and held his hands. Baby, your mama's right here. He looked up at me, voice cracking. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I pulled him into my arms. Not as a judge, not as a victim, but as the mother who never stopped loving him. The CPS workers packed their files. The sun outside softened. The house fell quiet. A peaceful quiet, not the one made of fear. When they left, my son whispered, Mom, can I stay here tonight? I don't want to be alone. I kissed his forehead. You stay, as long as you need, baby. Later that evening, my grandson's little voice filled the house once again, light, innocent, untouched by the storms adults create. And as I watched him play on the carpet, safe and smiling, I realized something. This house, our home, was no longer a battlefield. It was a beginning, a brand new one. And baby, after everything we survived, we deserved that. We earned that. We finally got that. If you've ever been in a situation where the people you loved the most turned into the people who hurt you the deepest, then you already know how heavy this kind of truth feels. And if anything like this has ever happened to you, or to someone you care about, I want you to go down to that comment section and tell me your story. Don't keep it locked inside your chest, sugar. Your voice matters here. Your pain is safe here. And if you don't want to miss what happens next, go on and subscribe. Hit that little bell. Megan out.